Good evening from the Channel's newsroom in London. The Brexit Party leader has challenged Boris Johnson to drop his deal with the European Union, saying it's a bad treaty. With 6 weeks to go until the general election, members of Parliament are in full campaign mode. The withdrawal agreement is dominating discussions, and the Brexit Party leader, Nigel Farage, has warned he'll contest every seat in the country if the Prime Minister doesn't agree to a creation of a Leave alliance.
I'm going to say this to Boris Johnson: drop the deal. Drop the deal because it's not Brexit. Drop the deal because as these weeks go by and people discover what it is that you've signed up to, they will not like it.
That's after Donald Trump got involved. On a radio show, he said the UK could secure better trade deals with the US if it ditched the current agreement.
Your trade with us could be 4 to 5 times higher than it is right now. That would make your country much bigger economically than it is right now, and you're being held back by the European Union. I have great relationships with many of the leaders, including Boris. He's a fantastic man, and I think he's the exact right guy for the times, and I know that you and him will end up doing something that could be terrific. If you and he get together, it's, unstoppable force. And Corbyn would be so bad for your country. He'd be so bad, he'd take you in such a bad way.
The opposition Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn criticised the president for interfering in British politics and accused him of trying to get his friend elected. The Scottish National Party leader Nicola Sturgeon was also unimpressed.
What we heard from Donald Trump in that extraordinary exchange with Nigel Farage, pointing a pretty scary future ahead for the UK, is that he'll drive a hard bargain, and that's the real concern. Donald Trump will want the NHS on the table, whatever he might say right now. He wants food standards, environmental standards, workers' rights, and that's what the future holds if we allow Boris Johnson to take us down that track.
Firefighters have been facing what's been described as apocalyptic scenes in California.
Pretty difficult situation, so they're doing what they can. It's hard to fight fire in these conditions.
Fierce winds fueled wildfires for a second day, destroying homes and forcing evacuations. Crews have been battling about a dozen major blazes across the state, the most destructive in San Bernardino. Tens of thousands of people have been left homeless in the Central African Republic. Severe flooding, said to be the worst in a decade, has destroyed properties and claimed at least 5 lives. Matthew Laratonda reports.
Alain Bouin Pasteur is wading through the flooded grounds of a school. Once a vibrant place in Bangui, Central African Republic, it's now overrun by water. Yet another casualty of catastrophic floods which have left more than 35,000 people homeless, according to the International Red Cross.
All the students have to stay at home. Here in our complex we have around 1,000, more than 1,000 students. And so you can see the amount of waste this is causing. And we have only just started school, less than 2 months ago, and we find ourselves in this catastrophic situation.
Continuous rains caused a major river to burst its banks. At least 5 people have died. Residents say they haven't seen such flooding for at least a decade. A temporary shelter has been set up in the capital's main basketball stadium, but it has no basic facilities like toilets or cooking areas. Authorities now fear a rise in waterborne illnesses.
Hundreds of Algerians have returned to the streets, protesting against the ruling elite. They've been gathering for 37 weeks, demanding former regime allies be dismissed ahead of the presidential election on December the 12th. The demonstration came on the 65th anniversary of the revolution against French colonial rule. Banks in Lebanon have opened for business for the first time in 2 weeks. It follows a wave of protests that led to the resignation of the Prime Minister, Saad Hariri. There were huge queues in the capital as people waited to gain access to their money. The major banks imposed limits on cash withdrawals.
جاي اليوم بدي اسحب مبلغ which اكيد ما خلوني اسحب انا اللي كان بدي اياه لكرمال الشركه. I need a cash amount وقالوا لي انه في limitation على السحب وسافا I understand كل واحد بالنهايه جاي يسحب.
And finally, it was a night of horror in Hollywood.
Happy Halloween!
Americans take Halloween seriously, and costumes at the annual carnival didn't disappoint. Thousands of revelers turned out for some fun. Many were dressed to scare, realistic makeup bringing gory scenes to life, while others opted for more traditional costumes. The event is thought to be the biggest Halloween party on the planet. And that's your international news around the world in 5.